Hi everybody, I'm so glad you could join me in my kitchen today. I'm Amy from Neurotic Mom Bakes, and I'm going to be showing you my cinnamon rolls from start to finish. They're really easy. I'm going to walk you through step by step, and don't forget that in the description box I have my full recipe listed in both cups and grams. So we're going to get started with the dough, and the first thing you're going to need, well, for the dough, what you're going to need is a half a cup of milk. It doesn't matter if it's whole milk or skim milk, doesn't matter. Half a cup of heavy whipping cream or double cream. If you don't have the cream, you can use all milk. That will work just fine, but this just makes the cinnamon rolls extra fluffy and really, really good. I have a tablespoon of instant yeast that I'm going to use. If you're not using the instant kind, just make sure that, that you sprinkle the regular yeast over the milk and let it sit for about 5 minutes, the warm milk. 2 tablespoons of sugar, teaspoon of salt, a quarter cup or 4 tablespoons of salted butter. This recipe calls for salted, 1 egg, and 3 to 4 cups of all-purpose flour. Okay, so I'm gonna start by pouring a half a cup of milk. And that is gone. And half a cup of the heavy whipping cream. And I'm gonna warm that up just a little bit in the microwave for about 30 to 40 seconds. And while that's warming up, into here, I'm going to put 2 teaspoons of sugar. That says flour, but it is sugar. I have 2 things that say flour. They just didn't have one that said sugar. Okay, let's do a teaspoon of salt. I need my 4 tablespoons of salted butter. And by the way, you're going to start with the whisk attachment and switch to the bread hook in just a minute. Let's check my milk. Perfect. Okay, the milk is just kind of lukewarm. And I'm going to get a tablespoon of my instant yeast. And sprinkle that over. Yes. Okay, what do I have in there? Milk, sugar, yeast, salt, butter, egg. 1 egg. And I'm going to start mixing this with my whisk attachment. Okay, perfect. This is getting mixed together. Now, while I still have my whisk attachment on, now remember you need 3 to 4 cups of flour, and we're gonna start by adding just a half a cup at a time. And you're going to know when to stop adding flour when the dough pulls all the way away from the sides and it's not sticky. It doesn't stick to your fingers. You're able to handle it. So while the whisk attachment is still on, I'm going to add a half cup of flour on low and just kind of let that start forming a little bit of a dough. And it just helps mix the butter and everything together. Okay, and at this point, I'm going to switch attachments. And I'm going to add half a cup of flour at a time. So this right here makes 1 cup. That's 1.5. Okay, sometimes I'll just push the flour down in. Okay, this is 2.5. And it looks like it's not forming, not mixing, but just give it time. It'll eventually come together. This is 3 cups. Yeah, the flour will start to pull away from the sides and it all comes together. And I'm going to show you exactly what it's supposed to look like and feel like. I'll try to explain anyway. Okay, so this is forming a nice round ball of dough, and I'm going to, at this point, stop and just do a test. And it's falling off the hook. It's getting close, but it's still sticking to my fingers. So I am going to add 1/4 to 1/2 cup more flour. That was 3 cups. I'm on just kind of a low, medium speed. This makes 3.5. And I'm only going to add like half of it for now, just to see what it does. Because if you add too much flour, then it's going to be a stiffer dough and it's not going to be as light and fluffy. So towards the end, you just add it very gradually. All right, this is coming together nicely. Ooh, that piece went flying. Okay. Oh, this is perfect. Okay, do you see how it falls off the hook really cleanly? And I can handle it, roll it in a ball, no problem, it doesn't stick. So that is perfect. So what I ended up using was about 3¼ cups, but it's going to change based on the weather, the humidity, and it actually changes for me each time I make it. So sometimes it's just the temperature of your kitchen. So you just kind of got to watch it. Now, you want to form gluten, and that is formed by kneading the dough. And see, you can see right now, see how it breaks easily when I pull? That means there's not enough gluten formed. So you can either hand knead it, or you can let the mixer do some of the work. I'm going to let the mixer go for a minute. All right, let's see what's happening here now. See, now you can see, oh, it's getting a little more stretchy. So if you hold it up, it's called the window pane test. You want to be able to stretch the dough and be able to see through it without it breaking. See the light without the dough breaking. It's getting closer, but still it breaks a little too soon. Oh, but it's pretty good actually. That's pretty good. I'm gonna knead it by hand for a few more minutes. Just gonna get a little bit of flour and just work the dough. You can do it, there's lots of different ways. There's no right or wrong way. I just kind of push and then fold it over. Some people like to, I'm not as good at that. It's a workout. It's a good workout. I did have one of my Instagram followers message me and say she made her, so the donut dough is similar to the cinnamon roll dough. And she told me that she didn't have a mixer like this. She made her entire batch of donut dough by hand. She just hand stirred it, hand mixed it. I think she used an electric hand mixer at the beginning. She said she had to knead for a good, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes, but they worked. let's test this. Get a piece of dough. Yeah, see, it's getting a lot more stretchy, and it stretches quite a bit before it breaks. We're close. I'm just gonna give it a few more minutes. Okay, and then with almost every dough that uses yeast, you need to let it rise twice. Once after you initially mix the dough, I'm gonna put it in a greased stainless steel bowl and cover it with plastic wrap, and I'm gonna let that rise for 20 to 30 minutes, just depending on how warm your kitchen is. Sometimes I like to find a patch of sun. It'll just make it rise faster. You want it to double in size. And then after you roll it out and form the shapes, whether it's crescent rolls or cinnamon rolls or donuts, then you let it rise again before baking. I think we're good. Look how far that stretches. I can see the window, the light through it. I think we're good. Okay, so I'm just gonna form kind of a nice round ball. And then I'm gonna just spray it with a little bit of cooking spray. You don't need a lot, I just don't want it to stick. Drop it in. Cover it with plastic. All right, friends, I've got my cinnamon roll dough here. You can see it's about doubled in size. And we're going to start with step 2. We're going to make the filling, the cinnamon filling. And for that, you're going to need salted butter, a full stick or a half a cup of salted butter. And you're gonna melt that in the microwave. Okay, and while that is melting, I'm gonna measure out a cup of brown sugar. That's good. And I've also got some cinnamon here. And to this mixture, the melted butter, I'm gonna stir in the brown sugar to make kind of a paste. I'm also going to put in, I don't know, I'm gonna eyeball it, about 2 tablespoons, and this is to taste, so if you want more cinnamon, add more. I'm gonna do about 2 tablespoons of cinnamon. Ah, that looks and smells so good. What the heck? Let's add some more. Set that aside to cool for just a second. And now we're gonna work with our dough. Okay, so I'm gonna put some flour, generous amount, you don't want it to stick. There we go. I'm gonna turn my dough out. And then turn it over. And I'm gonna try to make a square shape or a rectangle. That's what we're going for. Get my, just make sure, I just don't want it to stick. There we go. Put some flour on a rolling pin. And we are going to roll this into a rectangle, which is actually kind of tricky, but doesn't have to be exact. It'll just help create a more uniform size for your rolls, but it certainly is not absolutely necessary to have perfect. And you want it about a 1/2 inch thick, 1/4 to a 1/2 inch thick. Okay, that's good right there. Try to get some corners on there. Okay, now you're gonna get your mixture and you're gonna spread this on here. Again, just kind of depending on how much cinnamon you want in there. You don't have to use all of this. If you like just a light amount of cinnamon in flavor in there and more bread, or if you like it really gooey and sticky, throw it all on there. All right, now we are ready to roll. I like to roll from the long way over, so it's longer. And if I were really smart, I would have rolled it the other way, but it doesn't matter. I'm gonna get over here and I'm gonna start rolling this. Perfect. It's okay if some squishes out the end, that's not a big deal. Okay, now we've got the roll here. I have a Pyrex pan that I need to spray with some cooking spray. And here's the trick to cutting these. I have floss, clean plain floss, and I'm going to slide my floss underneath and just twist and pull through. And then you have a clean cut. You want the cut side up on that first one, and you just go through. See how the swirl, you have to re-roll it a little bit and just put them in the pan. Thread works, embroidery floss. Someone told me once they used fishing line, but I don't know. It's just easier than a knife. A knife will just smash it down and you won't get that clean cut and that pretty swirl. You want to spread them out a little bit in the pan, just a little bit, because they are going to rise again before you bake them. And after they've risen, so they're going to double in size. Okay, so you're going to let these rise again until about double in size again. Cover them with plastic wrap. And then they are going to go in a 325-degree oven for 14 to 18 minutes until they're just barely brown. The first time I made these, I thought they needed to be more of a golden brown and they were too crusty and hard inside, just the tiniest hint of color. So let's get the plastic wrap on. And it will take anywhere from another 20 to 40 minutes to rise, just depending on your kitchen temperature. I'm gonna set those aside. All right, I have my cinnamon rolls. You can see here, they're about doubled in size. They're all touching, which is good, because then it's easier to spread the frosting on. But you can see how they've risen, and they will continue to rise even a little bit more in the oven, but they're gonna go in, again, at a 325-degree oven, that's Fahrenheit, for 14 to 18 minutes until there's just a hint of color on the top. All right, now last step, while the cinnamon rolls are cooking, I'm going to make the glaze, the cream cheese glaze that goes on top of the cinnamon rolls. You're gonna start with 4 tablespoons of salted butter and 4 ounces of cream cheese. All that good stuff off. And I'm going to add about 1.5 cups of powdered sugar to 2 cups. This is going to be depending on how thick you want your frosting. So I'm kind of eyeballing it. There's 1 cup. Let's start with that. And I'm gonna start mixing this together. I just use a hand mixer, it's easier. You don't need a lot. Okay, just mix it a little bit, and then I'm gonna add a teaspoon of vanilla. I'm using Mexican vanilla because it's so, so good. And I'm gonna start with just 1 tablespoon of milk. You'll need up to 3 to 4 tablespoons. We're gonna start with that. A little goes a long way. I'm actually gonna add, it's a good consistency, but I'm gonna add a little bit more powdered sugar and then a little bit more milk. So let's add another, half a cup. And let's add 1 more tablespoon-ish of milk. Okay, it's pretty thick. So if you like it that thick, that's great, but I'm gonna just thin it out just a hair by adding just like 2 drops of milk. Let's check that consistency. I think I can get away with a little bit more milk. Oh, I don't know, it's pretty good. It's a good spreading, I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna just whip it a little bit more just to make sure all those butter chunks and shortening pieces are fully mixed in. All right, that is ready to go. Again, add more milk if you want it a little bit thinner. Add more powdered sugar if it gets too thin, and you can go back and forth and adjust. And then we'll just wait for those cinnamon rolls to come out and spread that on top. You're gonna wanna spread it on while the cinnamon rolls are still warm, not totally hot. I would let them cool for 3 to 5 minutes and then spread this icing on. Okay, I just pulled these from the oven about 3 or 4 minutes ago, and you can kind of see a clear pan makes it a lot easier. You can see how they're just barely brown on the sides and just a hint of color on the top. And I've let them cool for just a couple minutes, but you want to ice them while they're still warm. And I'm just gonna scoop my cream cheese icing and spread it on top. Go as thin or as generous as you want. For me, the more the better. Sometimes I'll double the icing recipe or 1.5 times it, just because I kind of like to spread it down the sides. But then it's a lot messier to eat. Yeah, this is plenty though. There's a lot in there. I'll just kind of push my spoon down along the sides just to get them covered. Okay, you can serve them warm like this. I'll just get like a butter knife and I don't know, a spatula. You can kind of see the breaks in the cinnamon rolls. I'm gonna pull one out and cut into it. Ah, yes, so good. So, so good. You can see the cinnamon. I don't know if you can see that. Kind of the bread texture in there. I'm going in. That's really good. And really messy and really good. Okay, I'm so glad you could join me today here on Neurotic Mom Bakes. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Make sure you like and comment and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more tutorials and recipes like this one.